Hi, everybody. So we're live, I hope. If you can hear me and if you can see me, please add a comment to tell me that like everything is okay and you can hear us. Today with me is Mordy Oberstein, head of SEO brand at Wix. He's an amazing person. He worked at Semrush, he works at Wix.com. Uh, I don't know if you can get more experience than that, like with all the things that he's learned throughout the time. So welcome, Morty.
Hey, thanks for having me. Really excited to be here.
Amazing. So today, like because we're rolling out, Google is rolling out actually the Google March core update. We decided to go like and talk a little bit about different opinions on Google March update because probably if you were on LinkedIn or on any other platform where people discuss like Google core update, there's plenty of different thoughts around there. Like people don't know if it's the end of the world or it's the beginning of the world, like what's actually happening. And we decided like let's tackle that topic and let's see where it goes, because to be honest, like we're probably like Google is ending the rolling out the core March update, and we still don't know what to expect. Probably Morty knows a little bit better than I do about it, but like we want to discuss the whole thing. One comment, I think one of the SEO groups, Noah, called this March update MC Hammer, which is like March update Hammer, which is like really the best name ever. So kudos to Noah for naming it this way. To start our discussion, before we go into details with core March core update by Google, uh, Morty, could you share with us some surprising or unexpected lessons you've learned about SEO from experience at Wix? A lesson that made you think like, whoa, I didn't expect that.
I think, I don't think it's really anything of like earth shattering. I say this when I judge SEO awards. It's the actual thing that you're doing is not earth shattering, but the thinking behind it and the strategy behind it and appreciating the nuance of it is very interesting. And I'll just say, like, seeing what the Wix organic search team has done with topic clusters is absolutely amazing. They crush it. And everyone talks about topic clusters, but to really execute it the right way and to be innovative while also aligning to what's on the SERP at the same time is fascinating to watch them do. And you can really see the value of building that topical authority and being very strategic about how you go about creating that topical focus in a very clustered kind of way. So I can't dive into any more than that, or I'll spill the secret sauce, but it really is appreciating the value of that.
Yeah, so like topic clusters are really difficult because like there are multiple approaches. Probably how I approach it, like from my perspective, I use a little bit more AI to cluster actually things through. So for example, you can use vectors. So as an example, you can use GPT embeddings for vectorizing a certain topics to understand how they cluster out. Because when you're using a normal human, like in logical thinking of a human to cluster things out, you make human mistakes. So for me, it's better to use technology. I always go with data if I can, of course. But like there's probably multiple ways, and your approach is probably some kind of a combination of a human and technology to do it.
Yeah, we're always analyzing the data, and really, I'll just say it's really being on top of all of it. Because, for example, we have the Wix SEO Learning Hub. So you're talking about a subfolder within the wider Wix offering. So you have the Wix blog, you have Wix landing pages, you have, let's say, the Wix SEO Hub. And when you're working at the enterprise level and you're trying to create the right clusters for the right asset, you really need to make sure that you're not overlapping with each other. You need to really make sure that you're on top of the nitty-gritty details, so that you say, okay, like, because it's very easy to talk about something like keyword research, for example, obviously on the Wix SEO Hub, but it's also very easy to talk about, say, keyword research on the regular Wix blog for that audience, which is a very different audience than, let's say, the Wix SEO Hub. So you really need to make sure what topics you're covering in what place, so that you don't cannibalize your own efforts, and that you really assign the right cluster to the right place on your website. I think it's something people don't talk enough about. Talk about topic clusters. That's true. They're great. But if you're working on a much larger website, you need to understand where you want that cluster to be effective for which part of the website. Because if you spread it too thin, or you spread that cluster across different parts of the website, you ended up just cannibalizing your own efforts.
Okay. So Crystal asked a question. Are you saying topic clusters or copy clusters?
Topic clusters. Or I mean, if
So,
you want to
yeah,
call them copying, like written copy, then you can call them that also, I guess. I've always referred to them as topic clusters, though.
like for me, like the whole other discussion is cannibalization. I don't want to go into nitty-gritty details of that. Like, I'll be honest, like I'm on the side that I don't believe that there is actually cannibalization exists at the level that people think. That's my opinion.
I agree with
My
that.
proof of that is like big platforms like LinkedIn, where everybody can write a post, which actually is SEO driven, kind of. And there's like a lot of cannibalization there. So all the platforms that you can use parasite SEO techniques, like prove that cannibalization is, you just need to create better content there.
Yeah, I think, and I don't want to go too far down the cannibalization wormhole. I think the idea that if I have multiple posts and it's going to decrease the ranking of both of them, other SEOs will disagree with me, and I respect that totally. It's fine. My personal take is that's not what's happening, but that's not to say there isn't an idea of cannibalization, with the classic example being if I sell socks and I have a blog post about socks, but the keyword is buy socks. I don't want the blog post being outranking the actual page where you buy the socks, because the page where you buy the socks is where you earn the money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. This is the point. So if anybody will have any questions, please interrupt us, like write them in comments. I will try to ask Mordy all the questions that you will send to us. I also like have my list of questions. So let's start and jump on the topic. So Google March core update insights. So understanding the update. So can you start with just telling us a little bit more about why did Google did this update, and what was the idea behind the whole update that they were starting to roll out in March?
That is like a loaded question. Where do you start? Okay, so Google, if you want like my take, I guess you want my take. Google has a perception problem. And part of it's its own fault and part of it's not its own fault. And this goes back for the last few years, where you see people starting to write posts, like the New Yorker wrote an article about this. I think The Verge wrote an article about this. The results are getting worse, which is, as someone who's been studying the algorithm for years, the results are not getting worse for the most part. I think there are peaks and valleys where you have, like, currently the whole Reddit issue where the results are actually worse to a certain extent. But the technology only improves and it only gets better and the results only get better. But what's happened is the user and the larger society has gotten more aware of what is quality and what's not quality. And Google is developing technology, which is a very slow burn, to offer higher quality results. But the perception and people's ability to analyze quality has surpassed Google's ability to introduce new technology to meet the user's quality thresholds. So what users perceive as the results are getting worse is really our expectations are getting more and more refined, and Google's not able to keep up. So that's one problem. The other problem is all the AI content, just the flood of like people. AI is great. I am not an AI curmudgeon. I am all for AI if you use it the right way, which I'm sure you'll talk about. Spinning up blog posts willy-nilly without any direction and without any refinement and boundaries is not, in my personal humble opinion, what AI is for and what it's actually good at. But Google has to deal with this. And on top of all of that, there's new user expectations in terms of what we want to see from content. We want to see more firsthand knowledge. We want to see more actual experience in the results. People are going to TikTok and whatnot. And Google's actually said that they are trying to reward more firsthand knowledge on the results page, which is why there's so much Reddit right now, which is a problem. All of this is like the perfect storm, and Google needs to basically fix the SERP for all of those reasons. And what it did was it took the helpful content update, which is a very, very new and very, very young update. And I'm a little bit surprised Google did this because it's a learning algorithm, meaning it's based on machine learning, and machine learning needs to learn in order to be effective. If it's not learned enough, it's not going to be effective. If it's a very new algorithm, relatively speaking, how effective is it going to be if you just let it go? It needs the time to ferment, kind of like a good bottle of wine. But what Google did after a relatively short amount of time, in my personal opinion, and I'm not a huge expert on machine learning, is say we're taking the helpful content update, and this is where the speculation comes in, and we're this is not speculation, this is actual truth. We're integrating it into the core algorithm, much like, let's say, Panda or Penguin of the past. It won't be an independent ranking system. So the helpful content update ranking system is no more. It no longer exists. And its technology has been incorporated into the algorithm, the core algorithm. Now is where the speculation starts. There's two possibilities here. Either the helpful content update is now diluted because it's now a small fish in a large pond. It's part of the core algorithm. There's a million other things being considered and blah, 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 blah. And the helpful content update is one little small part of that. Or the helpful content update is now, in a way, defining the core algorithm to a greater or lesser extent. To what extent, we wouldn't know. But as a concept, the helpful content update is now integrated into the core algorithm, but that technology is putting a very, very heavy finger on the scale. I lean, and this is where I'm speculating, towards the latter, where the technology for the helpful content update is now one of the driving forces in the core algorithm, which is why this update is taking so long to roll out. And it's also why Google is saying things like, we expect for, I think the number they said was 40% of low quality spammy results to be removed from the SERP. This is earth shattering, blah, 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 blah. Because I think they saw that with the September 2023 helpful content update, that it did what it wanted to do. And if it did what it wanted to do, the SEO internet is very upset, because that update pissed off a lot of the niche websites. And I have a lot of hot takes about that. And, you unfairly, demoted our rankings, blah, 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 with the helpful content update, yada, yada, yada. But if you see what Lily Ray and Glenn Gabe are putting out there, it seems that none of the websites impacted by the September 2023 helpful content update have seen any reversal as of yet with the March 2023 core update. But that's, to me, very broadly speaking, what's going on. It's an enormous mess.
Yeah, definitely. So we're here speculating. So just so you all know, we don't have access to Google. We don't know exactly what went through. We have partial data that we see somewhere. So we're trying to speculate what actually happens. Since you mentioned the helpful content update from September, which was actually rolled out without saying that we were rolling something out. We just saw basically red ocean all over SERPs. How would you compare what happened in September last year to right now? Is it SERP shaking, or actually it's a light breeze? What do you think?
So when Google announced the helpful content update in September, it was, first of all, that was complicated in its own right, because they announced that one. Then they had an October core update right after it, and there was an August core update right before that, and there was a spam update in the middle. So it's hard to pinpoint exactly what dinged you, but it's hard to say, because when the September helpful content update was announced and rolled out, the internet lost its collective mind, because a lot, again, those niche websites got dinged. Now, one thing to remember is that the helpful content update is a demoting website. It doesn't reward website. It can only hurt you. It can't really help you. So what it does is it looks at quality overall, and it says either you meet the threshold or you don't meet the threshold. If you don't meet the threshold, smackdown. If you do meet the threshold, great.
I don't agree that it's not rewarding people, because if it's some people are losing, that means some other people will gain.
Right. Someone has to replace that, but it's not because of, the helpful content update said you get a bonus push. It's very similar to what happens with product review updates, which are now review updates, which are now not even announced anymore. You'll see a lot of e-commerce websites move around with the product review websites shifting rank. Because if a product review web page loses rank, something has to replace it. And very often it might be an actual product page as opposed to a product review page. So there's always residual ranking shifts that come along with it. But as a concept, the HCU would only ding you, not reward you. Now, the niche websites freaked out. And I think a lot of that, and I'm saying this, I don't want to offend anyone. I don't want to get you upset. But I think a lot of the complaining has a lot to do with SEOs not understanding content. SEOs are great at understanding SEO. I put out a really hot take on Twitter about this like a week ago, where I said like SEOs have like doubled down on performance marketing forever. And I think, by the way, I think a lot of this has to do with mindset stuff. So if I'm getting very mindset-y, it's because I think that's the problem. SEOs think like performance marketers. And I think what happens is Google's come along for the last, I say since 2018 and has basically reinforced the message. You should think more like a brand marketer. How is your content positioning you from a quality point of view? How is it being interpreted and coming off for users? Is it offering a helpful experience? Is it holistically offering a good experience? All of that kind of like brand marketing kind of stuff. And SEOs can't process that because our brains, right, think like performance marketers. So I just want to know about rankings, revenue, and backlinks, like whatever. And Google's like, no, but we want you to think about like perception. And we're like, what the hell is perception? I only know performance. And I think part of that mindset leads to when Google says these things and then actually acts on it with something like the helpful content update. SEOs are like, what the F? Whoa, what happened?
Yeah.
So it's hard to take like the SEO grumbling and rumbling as like that's actually what's happening. Meaning SEOs might complain, the HCU dinged me, the HCU got me, blah, blah, blah. It's unfair. And it may feel unfair. And I am sympathetic because you're losing business. I get it. It's upsetting. But there's also the possibility that you don't understand what actual good content is. And I'll give you an example. With this update, and this update's also complicated because there was a March 2023 spam update that went along with it and thousands of manual actions that went along with it too. So it's hard to know, if this website got dinged from that or it got dinged as part of the ongoing March update. But they were complaining. They review products and they were complaining. Our content's great. Why do we get dinged? And Danny Sullivan from Google started going into it with them. And I looked at the actual website and the content, and this is what sucks. The content is great. It's long form content. I think almost too long. Based on personal experience, you can tell the dude actually used the product. He's giving his experience, but it's really long form content. And what he did was every fold has another big old ad, like a banner ad built in. So yeah, your content's great, but the overall experience is kind of spammy in a way. So you've shot yourself in the foot. So you're saying, but my content's great. Yeah. But you're not zooming out and looking at it holistically like a brand marketer would. Like a brand marketer, like, yo, you do this in every fold, the user's going to walk away feeling like you're just driving a sale. You got to take your foot off the gas here a little bit. Yeah. So we complain, but I also feel like we also don't understand. So it's hard to take all of the complaining to say like, yeah, that's like a legitimate problem. Google didn't get it right. I don't know. Not so fast.
So basically how I approach it is that like most of SEO, like I agree with what you said about SEO experts that they don't understand the word helpful. Helpful means like finally we're doing content for users. Like this is the game that Google announced like 20 years ago, over 20 years ago. We want to create content that is helpful for users. They're getting better in being a referee year over year, and they're becoming like really good. And still, like SEO experts, I feel that are stuck like in a mindset like if I use this keyword 5 times, this keyword 3 times, this keyword 5 times again, then I'm good. And then I'm asking like, but like you can use them anywhere or in a specific place. Like, how do you approach it? No. You need to add like 500 additional words. Like, but any kind of words or like, what do you want to do?
Yeah. Or it's like, let's write about like how to change your brakes. And you start off the post with, what is a car?
Yeah, exactly. So like, it's about being helpful. Like we're creating it for humans. Like we need to understand the search intent. Unfortunately, my opinion is still that Google knows better than we do. you need to go through and just understand what is the search intent, because if you have like a far better idea than what Google has there, unfortunately, I give you 90% chance that you're wrong. I was wrong so many times, I'll be honest. But like, definitely look for helpful indicators, like in the content that already ranks there. It's for a reason. And for me, like helpful content update, like in the core update that is running right now, like I basically love it. For me, all the content that we create and is helpful, if we use AI, we use it in a smart way. Unfortunately, why AI gets hit on LinkedIn for that? Because it's extremely easy to use all these AI tools that are basically using ChatGPT or whatever as search engines, and they're creating like content with one click, which is shallow, empty, and definitely not helpful. Let's admit, like we're creating spam like that.
Yep, basically.
So,
and it's a shame because AI can be used in so many ways. I've used AI to understand, like, how does a bot understand an entity? Like, you could literally ask it, what are entities that are related to party planning? And it gives you topics and all sorts of like ways of like conceptualizing party planning that I never would have thought of before, because I know about zero about party planning. So really like diving into things and researching things and making things faster and more expedient. AI is great, but just spinning up content, why would you do that?
yeah, I always say like my favorite technique that I use is Cyborg method that we developed. Like is basically a human working with AI. We're special matter experts, so we have so much to add there, like opinions. We talk to customers. We work with a product. Like we do like give services like to different kind of customers. Like, and AI doesn't have this experience, so let's add it. Like let's combine our powers together. Let's increase the ROI, but like do it the smart way.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing that folks are
Okay,
gonna keep.
so
Sorry.
looking.
No, we
Go,
hit
go for
we hit an internet gap. So go for it. You're good.
What have been the immediate effect of Google March Core update on established SEO strategies? Like how actually you should change the strategy? Is there anything that you should do?
Well, I don't think it was the core update that did it thus far, because the core update is still rolling out. I don't think it's like earth shattering the way that Google has kind of like presented it as being like 40%. Like I do see more movement. I do see more drastic movement, and this is very anecdotal than I normally see. Usually you go in and try to dig for it. It can take some digging to find that really serious movement. I think it's much easier to spot this time around, so it means that there's more of it. But I don't see the top 3 to 5 results. Like I don't see drastic movement in there for the average keyword. So I don't know if it's an earth-shattering thing yet. I think we're still waiting to see the ultimate fallout from it. I was just looking at it the other day, and you thought like just when you thought it was done, all the SEO weather tracking tools, Semrush sensor, kind of like calmed down a bit. But if you look carefully, because again, like they're tracking the internet as a whole, or as much as they can as a whole. But if you look more granularly, you'll see a lot of movement around April 5th again. A lot of reversals happening over the weekend or right before the weekend. So it's not done rolling out. It's hard to say what lessons we've learned from the March update because it's still kind of happening. I do think, though, from the spam update, I think that woke up a lot of SEOs. I think that woke up a ton of SEOs. People, and I've seen people on YouTube like, oh, I was doing this for years and now it's not. The absolute like hubris you have of doing absolute crap on the internet. I think Google sent a very clear message with the the March 2024 spam update, and particularly with the manual actions that came with it. They announced that you buying old domains and trying to repurposing them, we're going after you. They announced that we're going after parasite SEO. So be warned, SEOs, that's coming. Prediction, I think that whole like throwing 1 million Taboola articles onto the bottom of your website, I think they're going to go after that next at some point. I don't know when, but if I was Google, that would be the next thing I would go after. I don't know what publishers are going to do. That's how they earn money. I think, by the way, publishers as an ecosystem are screwed. I don't know how they're going to earn money. You see Rolling Stone is writing about how to buy the best fridge because they can't get actual subscriptions anymore, and they need to focus on creating copy that gets ad revenue, so they don't put that content behind a gate like they do their Bob Dylan content. and they're trying to rank for all this stuff and get traffic out of it and get ad revenue out of it, that seems like a disaster. I think the serious brands with serious content, like the New York Times, they are just fine. You see it. Like their subscription numbers are amazing. Their digital subscription numbers are amazing. And I think you're going to see a winnowing out of the real publishers who offer real value and the old-time publishers who no longer offer value. So I think the ecosystem is very, very hard right now for a publisher. But I think that idea of parasite SEO, Google going after the AI at scale, or programmatic content at scale, and killing that off. And the sites I saw is the worst of the worst. Like, it's not even good AI. It's like bad, horrible, like ridiculous AI. And Google not just doing it through the algorithm. I think, by the way, they were training their spam algorithm with the manual actions, like it was the old days of Penguin. But even just that like optic of the manual action going after the website was basically like Old West, Clint Eastwood, like pulling out a Magnum 45 and like, going after you, saying like, you feel lucky? Well, do you, punk? I think that woke up a lot of SEOs of the ridiculous things that they're doing to like, you can't actually do that anymore. And I think it's going to raise questions about programmatic SEO as a concept in general, which I think SEOs have been reluctant to they've kind of like grouped AI at scale and programmatic SEO content differently. I'm not so sure they're very different to a larger or greater extent, lesser extent. And I think a lot of those ridiculous things that SEOs have been trying to get off of for a long time, that spam update was like the final nail in the coffin. I think it's this for the March update. The story is still yet to be written a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but do you feel that what we saw at the beginning of March, like so many people were screaming, like so many pages were de-indexed, manually penalized, is it actually going after AI? Because also Kim asks here a question like, is Google like going after blocking OpenAI while going with Gemini or something? But did they actually get penalized like automatically, or actually there was a manual human like button that somebody pushed?
For a lot of these websites, these again, like when we're talking here, we're not even talking about like your ChatGPT AI. We're talking entire websites with hundreds, if not thousands, of pages of just pure AI junk, really just trying to manipulate the algorithms. So like the worst of the worst, they went after it manually, thousands of websites. I think A, to send a message, and I think B, to train their actual algorithm. And Google won't say they're going after AI content. I'm not so sure they should even, because again, that's like opens up Pandora's box. Like, what does that mean, AI content? If I wrote a heading with AI, is that bad? No, that's probably fine. You can write headings with AI.
Also, they're rolling out Gemini at the moment.
Right. So that's the other part. Google can't be anti-AI because it is AI. Like, what's it going to say? AI bad? Here's SGE. Also, big companies that say AI not good for writing content at scale, their stock prices tend to go down. So Google has to be very careful what it says about AI because of their stock pricing. And I believe, and it's a bit of a hot take, that a lot of the hesitation of Google to be very transparent about what they're doing around AI has less to do with them like not being transparent about their algorithm. I think from an algorithmic point of view, I wonder if I would speculate they would like to say, you know what, like this kind of AI, great, this kind of AI, bad, but they can't say that because of their stock prices.
Okay, so like basically what I understand, it's all about like, is this content helpful? It doesn't matter like if it AI written, human written, like I don't know, dog written, doesn't matter. Like if it's good, it's good.
Really matter. Yeah, but to me, it's like same but different. If it's pure AI content or it's AI content that it really has been combed through and really doesn't have human involvement in a real way, it is low quality by definition in my mind.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. In my opinion, what happened in like beginning of March when a lot of pages were de-indexed, that was I call it a hybrid approach, like when they used PR as updates to the algorithm, kind of, because like, let's be honest, like fear is like a great tool to get rid of like a lot of spammy websites, because people start to like really be scared like that. Okay, like I'm creating spam, like they will catch me, so like I will stop. And this is one of the ways to clean up like the internet, just to create a lot of fear there and stop people doing like really spammy things that they're doing.
I would go so far as to say, if you're a high profile website, you have a big digital profile, and you're doing that like mass AI kind of like nefarious spammy practices, Google knows who you are, and Google will probably go after you just to make a case out of you, because you'll then go on YouTube or on social media or wherever it is that you have your audience, like, oh man, I got hit, which is exactly what Google wants you to do.
The bigger you are, the harder you fail.
That's right.
So okay, so looking at the strategies, like what would be your approach like to the strategies of content creation to maximize the visibility and drive traffic like right now?
So I would ignore the algorithm. And Google has said this. Danny Sullivan said this at Brighton SEO in San Diego. He said this multiple times, and he's not lying. Like, Google isn't looking at the algorithm. Google's looking at, and we say this all the time, if SEOs are so funny, okay? On the one hand, they'll say, oh, Google's definitely using user behavior data in the algorithm. And then we'll say, why am I looking at user? I just focus on the algorithm. But you just said Google's focused on user behavior, right? So you should focus on user behavior. Meaning, if you're looking at the algorithm, and I don't want to sound cliche, you're going to end up just playing catch up. I'm not saying you shouldn't look at what happens during an update. I like to look at the pages that won versus the pages that lost and pull out content lessons. Like, what's Google able to do? What's Google not able to do? Because that helps me think more holistically about my own content. But if you're looking at just the algorithm and you're not looking at content consumption trends, you're just a step behind. So I would leave aside the algorithm, and I would rather focus on content consumption trends, because SEOs were very, very surprised. E for experience and EAT, or Google's now showing perspectives and Reddit and whatever. Duh. Quote the 90s. Okay. Users are flocking to TikTok because they're looking for firsthand experience. They don't trust brands. They don't trust the big name website the same way anymore. And they're trying to get a more niche experience. And you're wondering why Google's talking about showing the hidden gems of the web and firsthand experience and E for experience in EAT? It's obvious, because Google is just chasing content consumption trends. So what SEO should think about, and we never think about until it's too late, are content consumption trends. How are users adjusting their way they consume content? What are they expecting out of content? What I mean by that, just to give you a concrete example, conversational content. When I look at landing pages across the internet, I look at like they're outdated almost entirely. Users are looking for a much more conversational approach. They want you to level with them. They want you to have a conversation with them. They don't want you to sell to them in the same way. The second you start selling, they're like, I know what you're doing. I get you. This is not the 1990s or 1980s or 1970s. I get what you're up to. You're trying to sell me something. I don't want to be sold to. Just tell me what I need to know. And I am an intelligent consumer, to quote Oscar from The Office. And I will make a decision as the intelligent consumer. But landing pages just go for the kill, right? Buy now, get this, ultimate whatever. Because we're not looking at content consumption trends. We're not looking at what users are expecting. They're looking to be more conversational, but we're like, oh, I don't know. I really got to drive that conversion. So my advice to you is to look at those content consumption trends, and it's opportunity. It gives you the opportunity, because brands are very hesitant to change. It gives you the opportunity to be the first one to do that. And the first one to ever do anything, you're usually the one who's there for the long term. The first one to do it has buying and staying power for a long time. If you can look at content consumption trends as an SEO and adopt that into your SEO strategy, you'll be so far ahead of the game because no one else is doing it.
Okay, so how to find these content consumption trends, like how to define them to know exactly what we're aiming for?
Honestly, like, first off, it's looking at wider marketing talk, looking at wider marketing topics. Like, what are marketers talking about? How are marketers how are they changing copy? What problems are they noticing? It's really having your finger on the pulse. What are people saying? Like, what are the conversations that people are having about content that they're consuming, like regular people? What's Google trying to do? Like, what Google's trying to, like, they added this thing, they added that. I think, by the way, SEO is a great way to have your finger on the pulse of the internet. What is Google looking to do? Like, what are the, like, when Google makes small changes to the SERP, people will flock to Barry. Is this new? Is this new? And who cares? Who cares if it's new? Actually, you should care, because the test that Google does, those small little things, those are signals that if you put it together in a longer term or more directionally, you can look at them like, all right, it seems like Google's trying to go here. Why is Google trying to go here? It's probably because they have data that tells them that users are trying to go here. So looking at what's happening with Google is a great way to try to reverse engineer the data that you don't have, but Google does have, to try to see where is the internet going. Looking at patterns. Are branded searches increasing over time? I bet you they are. I would love for, like, Semrush to put out a study about the power of branded search over time, because I bet you people are Googling more and more brands. If you are seeing something like that, it means they don't want to go to Google. That it means being top of mind is more important. Having your brand as associated with the product or service that you offer is more important, because people are not like, tell me the best microwave. People are like, Samsung microwave. I don't want to know the best microwave anymore. I don't want to get the best microwave from the Rolling Stone and the 5 ideas on which I know I like this brand. They've connected with me. I just want Samsung. If you see something like that happening, that's a trend that should signal you about what's going on. Your own social media, right? If you're seeing on your own social media, you know, when I put out that usual marketing schlock, like, I'm not getting engagement. But if I start talking and having a conversation, all of a sudden I am getting engagement. That should be a signal to you about what you should do on the SEO side as well.
Okay. So also, like, I've read, like, I think Andrew Holland said it about branded keywords for, like, and I think he's right. Like, this is one of the indicators. Like, if you're looking at Google Search Console and if you see, like, no branded keywords in your Google Search Console, like, I would predict that you will get hit with the next helpful content update, because basically that means that, like, nobody knows your brand, and PR actually became the signal for SEO. So work on that.
Yeah. Branded search is a real thing. By, like, Google knows, like, people are searching for your brand. Like, people are, if Google sees all of a sudden people are searching for Bob's microwave. Who's this Bob and why is he selling a microwave? But it's so much volume of it. It's so much talk and chatter on social media. You think Google's ignoring that?
Exactly. So, like, if you're creating and spinning out, like, content with AI, like, on so many topics, but you forgot about one single thing, like, so your own brand, then that might be really a huge indicator that you're creating spam, like, from the perspective of Google, because all the time, like, every year, like, people say, like, oh, backlinks doesn't matter. They do in a different way than we thought. Maybe branded keywords are the new backlinks, whatever. Like, because if somebody is mentioning you and linking back to you and it's mentioning your brand, that means, like, somebody knows your brand. And maybe this is the new backlink, but it's connected probably to the same thing that was there years ago. But definitely companies that spit out content at scale, forgetting about their own brand, because, like, nobody will search their brand if they don't know them, which is hard to build up over time. It's definitely an indicator. Okay, so you mentioned, like, let's say that we sinned a little bit. What do we do with old content? How do we focus on optimization? Like, are there any techniques to optimize old content, not to get hit the next time, like with another update of helpful content update?
Yeah, I mean, so the helpful content update is now part of the core algorithm. So quality as a concept, and Google is very explicit about this with the helpful content update, is domain level. I remember, I'm sure you remember the days of SEOs fighting about, oh, Google only looks at pages, not websites. And, like, that doesn't make any damn sense. As a concept, that makes no sense. Because if the user lands on one page from the SERP, and then they go to your next page and, like, wow, this is absolute garbage, they're going to blame Google. So Google cares about the whole experience. So why would they ever? But Google, even way back when, there was a great interview with John Mueller and Will Critchlow when he was at when he owned Distilled years ago, where John is like, we look at the domain overall for quality. Now with the helpful content update of the last couple of, the last year or two, they've explicitly said quality is domain level. That's still the case, even though the helpful content update is no more and it's integrated into the core. Quality is domain level. So you need to go look at all of your pages. If you're like, you know what, like these pages get no traffic, or they get very little, they don't rank for anything. Who cares? You should care, because from a quality point of view, they help the pages that you do want to get traffic from to rank. So you need to go through, you need to make sure they're actually helpful. And I'll define helpfulness the best that I can. You need to have a level of nuance, and you need to be able to predict the needs of your audience. So I love the thumbs up thingy. Great. Like, I get the yeah, fireworks. Nice. Nice. Hearts. Richard Nixon. I didn't get balloons for doing this. No, nothing. Okay. No, confetti. Nice. Okay. You need to look at and think for a second, like, is there a level of nuance here? And did you predict the needs of the user? So my classic example of this, so let's say I have a website that talks about, I'm trying to rank, I'm a big Yankees fan, it's a baseball team. Go to Yankees game. And I just have information about getting tickets. But you're not actually predicting the user's needs. Like, I've never been to a baseball game before. Is it safe to be there alone at night by Yankee Stadium? How expensive is the food? What seats are bad? What seats are good? If I'm a fan of the visiting team, can I wear that team's jersey, or will I get my ass kicked? You'll get your ass kicked, by the way. So don't, in the bleachers at least. You need to know all of these things. So as a copy creator, I need to predict what your various needs are, or I need to write situationally. Like if I'm writing I forgot the name of the website. They did a beautiful job of this with training a dog to sleep in a crate. And they had a whole thing like, if you try this and it doesn't work, try this. And if it doesn't work, then try this. If it works halfway, but not the full way that you wanted to, you may consider this. That's situational content. That's like, okay, in this situation, do this. In that situation, you need to do something different. That's a level of nuance and a level of expertise and predicting user desire that you're not going to get just by churning out ridiculous content. You're not going to get by just trying to rank for keywords. And it's a level of depth and nuance that really makes your content quality and helpful. That's the kind of thinking you should apply to the pages where you're not even ranking or even trying to rank.
Okay, makes sense. But we're talking all about creating content that nails the search intent and is great for the user, helpful. What should people that do technical SEO do? Is this still a thing, or?
Absolutely. First off, technical SEO, as my counterpart at Wix will say, Crystal Carter, technical SEO does testify to the quality of your website. If your technical backend is garbage, I mean, it's fine. Google can read it, you can crawl it and index it. But if it's just that's not a good experience for their bot, that is a level of quality, right? But also, you want to do that as a technical SEO. I'll tell you, a plug for Wix. We have a pull-in on the Google URL inspection API where you can inspect all of your website's pages for their indexation status in one click. Mm-hmm. If you see, and by the way, I think one of the unwritten stories about SEO in the modern era is that Google's getting very picky about what it indexes and what it doesn't index. If you're a technical SEO and you're all into indexation status, you should run a report. You should see what's being indexed, what's not being indexed. Is there a pattern behind what's not being indexed? Is it from a certain part of the website? Is it a certain type of content? And you should look at historically, what are the trends? Is there an increasing trend of you not being indexed or slower to be indexed? Because if there is, and I've talked about this in my own podcast with Melissa Pott from Rickety-Roo, if you see these trends in a negative way, that's also a testimony to how Google's looking at you from a quality point of view. If you're having indexation problems, crawl but not indexed, okay, they didn't discover you because they can't discover you. That's one problem. But if they discovered it and decided, you know what, we're not indexing this, and we're increasingly not indexing this, you might have a real quality problem on your hands. So technical SEOs can really be the first line of defense for a website to raise that flag, like, wait a second, hey, content SEO, you may have a problem here.
Okay, so like with Core Web Vitals, John Mueller said like that, no, we're not looking at it anymore. Do they? They don't?
Well, okay, so now that's like a whole saga. So that's a case where Google basically ran PR, kind of like with this algorithm update, the spam update, like, oh, Core Web Vitals are coming. You better get your website fixed. Your rankings are like, and then it came out and nothing happened. And Google's like, oh, yeah, they're like a tiebreaker. Come on. And then at one point they said, they're not even a thing. They're not part of the ranking system anymore. And then they said, no. They're in, but they're out. They're not. Are they in? Are they out? Yeah. So even Barry Schwartz, like when he covers it, he's like, very confusing. But Google doesn't seem to think they're being confusing, but they're really being confusing. So officially, Core Web Vitals are back in. They're a ranking factor. But then John said, like, yeah, but don't really worry about them. They're very, very, it's like, it'd be like worrying about, like, I don't know, like the keyword in your URL, even less probably. Yes, technically it's a factor. All the data shows that outside of like very, specific instances, they don't really seem to be a needle mover. I would imagine, I don't do SEO for news websites, but I would imagine for news websites, that's a big deal, especially because the content between like CNN and ABC News is very similar, if not exactly the same, because they're pulling in the same AP story. So then they're the only differentiating factor might actually be the way the page loads. But officially they're in, but the word on the street is don't worry about them. That's coming from Google. Like, don't freak out about them. If you're spending all of your time optimizing for INP, you got problems.
Like my approach is basically if you go to Google and you go to a page that loads like 10 seconds, and because of that, you're coming back to Google to search it again and find something else, like they don't need to test out your page. Like for Core Web Vitals, they see the patterns of people coming back to Google. Like they don't care like how fast your page loads.
No.
This is the reason why the people are coming back. But
exactly. I would think about Core Web Vitals and performance as a whole from a conversion point of view, not from a ranking point of view.
Exactly. So like if people are actually finding the things on the page and they're willing to wait until your page loads after 30 seconds and they go grab a coffee, that's probably okay. Like, but
it probably means you're the only website on the world that does that thing, because that's the only way I waited 30 seconds for a page to load. Like I'm still using AOL to dial up.
Yeah, exactly. But like all the, let's say, schema markups, reflongs, like all these like small tiny things, like are they still a thing, or we should forget about it because AI?
Like, if you're in the international space, you get hreflang wrong, like that's not good. Structured data outside of Google officially said that it's not a ranking factor, although structured data does help you contextualize your website, make connections between your website. So I'll say it's an indirect factor, but forget that. Like showing up as a rich result, if you don't show up, but the guy, the website above you and below you do, well, which one am I clicking on?
The biggest one.
The biggest one, the biggest, shiniest one with all of the stars and the colors and the expandable things. That's the one I'm clicking on.
Click me. It's like, yeah, right, exactly. This is what people are doing. Okay, so going back to AI tools, like how would you approach like using AI right now in today's world? Or maybe you would ditch it and go like with only humans like matter, and this is the only way to do it. What tools would you use? Like, what would you do there, like to create content and bring organic traffic?
First off, at this point, I refuse to write meta descriptions. AI can write my meta descriptions for me. We have a meta tag creator inside of Wix. I personally use it to create all of my meta descriptions because I don't care, and it does a good enough job doing. And by the way, that is a good case, right? Giving AI, in the way it works in Wix is you tell it a focus keyword to focus on, and then it scans the entire page. So I'm giving it a lot of context to work with, and I'm asking it to create a very short summary of my page. Fine, AI can do that. If I'm asking AI to help me write a title, if I'm stuck with something, if I'm asking it to better outline my content, better organize my content, to give me ideas. All of that is great, but all of that is really intricately involved outside of the meta description where I just click and input it because I just don't care. It's really integrated with what I do and what I bring. And I'll tell you the reason for that is obvious. I want you to go to ChatGPT or SG, whatever it is, or Bard rather, which is Gemini, and ask it like, what's it like to drive a Ford Mustang for the first time? And it will give you an answer. Oh, it was thrilling. The sound of the engine, the feel of the steering wheel. Like, that should give you enough of an insight to realize that you need to be involved. You need to contextualize it. You need to be very, very specific with what you're looking for. You need to refine what you're getting, but you need to use it. Everyone else is using it. They're getting all the efficiency out of it if they're using it the right way. So if you're losing that efficiency because you're like, well, AI bad. Well, your competitors who are using it the right way aren't.
Yeah, exactly. So Amanda Kern said that I transcribed subject matter expert interviews and used them to prompt AI for a first draft. Definitely, this is the way. Like what we do, for example, at SEO Wind, like we use special matter expertise. Like we pull it in. Then what we do, we parse it. Like we divide it into separate thoughts. Then we have the outline, for example. We use AI to match it to the outline. So to say like AI, use this thought like of our subject matter expert like here and like actually use it because that makes sense. Like, so this is combining like human knowledge, like you said, Amanda, and AI, like feed it with data, like go with additional statistics, like feed it to AI. Don't let it even think of like ways to create new stuff that doesn't exist. So this is exactly what to do. Definitely worth it. Jeremy, it's interesting GBP added social media updates for brands in mobile search. Any insights and data to this new feature? I imagine helpful social posts will be important soon. Your thoughts regarding SEO?
So I think this is referring to Google Business Profile integrating social media profiles into the actual business panel there.
Yeah.
Which I think just goes to speak to the idea that it's all your digital light. You're talking before about digital PR. The way I refer to it is you need to create a digital light, and having that digital light pays off for you in a million different ways. And in this case, what you have is you have great social media content being integrated into your Google Business Profile. That can help you. First, it helps you convert. It can help you to show that you're vitalitous. You're alive. You're on the ball. You're a thriving company who's putting out content, who's part of the conversation. And it also really shows like the value of making entity connections, that Google should understand that that's who you are. Who you are here is who you are there. And let's connect that together for you.
Okay. So looking at, because we have like just 5 to 8 minutes, looking at where we are, like what should we predict that will happen in the next, like say 6 months, because it's really hard to go beyond 6 months right now. And where, like, what should we expect? Where are we heading? What should we do as experts in content marketing, SEO experts?
I think the Reddit thing is going to have to change. Right, the overabundance of Reddit on the server. I was looking the other day, like we have a podcast episode coming about how Google should deal with the Reddit problem, and I was doing some research for like what should my title tag be? I was wondering how does like Google understanding this, and I get nothing back but Reddit. Nothing. The second I mention the word Reddit, everything is Reddit. Everything. It's gonna have to deal with it. It showed up, and Lily Ray showed it in health queries, which was ridiculous what was going on there. Really unhelpful, really dangerous. If someone with a eating disorder rather, was Googling that and getting a lot of the crap that's on there on Reddit is actually dangerous. It's going to have to address this. And the reason, by the way, that Google has this problem, it's your fault. It's all of our faults. Is that they have nothing better to do, or nothing better to do. They have nothing better to show. They want that firsthand content, that firsthand experience. If you look what Google wrote in the announcement about doing this, where they said they want to show more firsthand knowledge on the SERP, they said, forums, whatever, blogs. There's no blog out there with their firsthand knowledge, firsthand experience. Everyone's optimizing 5 ways to do this, best ways to do that. There's no actual firsthand knowledge. there's nothing to rank. And I think what you're seeing smart people do, Aleda Solis. I think we all agree Aleda Solis is freaking brilliant. What she did was she saw Google announcing, this is what we talked before, like seeing where Google's going. They announced that they want to show more forum content. They also announced special structure to markup for forums. Clearly, they want to steer the internet to create micro forums, like it's like 20 years ago, but better in a way. That's a weird statement. Anyway, and show that over Reddit. And what she did was she created an SEO forum, chat FOMO, which by the way happens to be on a Wix forum website. I'm just saying, because we automatically create the structure to markup for you. So double smart by Aleda. Create the forum and do it on Wix, where we automatically add the structure data markup for your forums for you. But that's being smart. That's saying, you know what? I see a trend. I see what Google wants. They may not be there yet to be able to rank me and to show me because they're still figuring this all out. But I'm going to be the first one there, and I'm going to get ahead of the curve. So do that, because at a certain point, Google, the problems that you see, there's two possibilities. The problems that you see and that you complain about with Google are not going to be fixed, in which case Google's going to die. In which case, what are you even worrying about? Go optimize for Bing, I guess.
For ChatGPT, like this is the new search engine.
Right, yeah, ChatGPT, because that's going to be a great search engine. Rand Fishkin, by the way, has got a great post about why that makes no sense. Or Google's going to figure it out inevitably, and either you'll be left behind or you'll be like Aleda and you'll be smart and you'll be ahead of the game.
Yeah, my prediction with Reddit, like I'll be honest, like I'm using Reddit, but I'm using it for perplexity. I can't read it, but perplexity is the best way of using Reddit for me. So I assume that like the whole rollout of SG will hit Reddit directly because they will sum up like all the threads and they will put it into Google directly, and this will be the solution. Perplexity already does it, so it's doable, and that's not a problem.
As long as I never have to visit that sewer that is known as Reddit, then that's fine.
But actually, using Perplexity, I can get things that matter and are accurate, even connected to health. Which are like for me are a starting point of something, like if I like looking for studies and so on. But like never ever I will go to discussions like to read them through, because like that's impossible, really.
It's impossible. And yeah. Okay.
My last question, like, so what kind of skills we should like focus on? Like when we're a marketer, like we're a SEO person, like what should we do focus on? Like AI, non-AI? Like I'm like, I don't know where to go.
I would focus on your brand. And I'm saying this, I'm biased. I do a lot of brand marketing. So I love brand marketing and I see the power of brand marketing. I was just talking to Jonas Sickler from Terrakeet about this yesterday. A lot is going to change in the digital ecosystem, what we call the internet as a whole. And that's going to impact Google, and it's going to impact everything. And one of the things is going to be, I'm a consumer, and I want to see that you're differentiated. I want to understand that you have an identity around X, that you're relevant about X, you're an expert in X, you have experience about X, not X the platform, like whatever it is that you do. And to really differentiate yourself, you see brands struggling with this now. Like I was reading an article last week about Nike's they're basically flatlined, they've stagnated, their brand has fallen flat, and they're looking to the Olympics to kind of like revitalize their brand. The way that people are relating to what's been out there already is changing. Brands are having to pivot, and we're all having to pivot because the internet is currently pivoting. And to quote Yogi Berra, when you come to a fork in the road, take it. Okay, you have to make a decision. And I think the decision you have to make is you have to start thinking about your brand, and your brand being present at all the touch points, and your brand being associated, like I mentioned before, very strongly with whatever it is that you do, because you want your brand to be differentiated so that people go to Google from an SEO point of view, see your brand everywhere in all the touch points, whether they click on it or not, realize, you know what, like, okay, I'm ready to convert now. I'm going to Google the thing that I want and the brand name, and I'm going to buy it from them now. That's kind of like, I think will be the new SEO. It's going to be being top of mind will drive the conversion. Whereas now we think about being top of mind. What a waste of time.
Yeah, and what I would add to that, like think about ways like going with the X thing, like 10x basically your productivity. Like use the tools that can increase, but remember a fool with a tool is still a fool. So you have to use the tools that actually increase your productivity and find a way to make it happen. Like AI is definitely an opportunity, but it's not the only way to do it. If it helps, then like use it.
You should use it because it can help.
Exactly. Thanks a lot. It was really a lot of fun talking to you, Morty. I've learned definitely a lot, and probably a lot of viewers also learned a lot. It was really amazing. So thanks a lot.
Thanks so much for having me. This is a blast.
Yeah. So in 2 weeks we'll have another webinar with Jeremy from ClickUp. Like they're also like amazing company. So see you in 2 weeks, and thanks a lot, Morty. It was really a pleasure. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.